Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. My home thoughts, I thoroughly enjoyed myself yesterday. The Jaguar F-Type launched yesterday evening here in Nairobi. I'll put up a photograph of the car making its grand entrance at that party. And it was less than 2 or 3 weeks ago that I was very kindly taken down to Kyalami to drive a suite of Range Rovers and Jaguars, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I rather enjoyed driving the Jaguar, I must admit. But the roads there in South Africa are so fantastic. You can drive such a car. As we looked at the car yesterday, we thought to ourselves, Carlo Carlo is the fellow behind the Lake Turkana wind power. And we said, we could just imagine ourselves getting perched on a big bump somewhere in Nairobi and not managing to get off it. But it really is a spectacular car. And I thank RMA for the invitation yesterday to a rather good and buzzy party they had. Political Reflections, Article 5 of the US-Japan Security Treaty covers all territories under Japan's administration, including the Senkaku Islands, Mr. Obama said. We do not believe that they should be subject to change unilaterally. This is not a new position, this is a consistent one, he said. And I think these comments are as incontestable as flying B-52s into the ADIZ zone not too long ago. And I referred to that on the 2nd of December 2013 when I wrote The Pivot to Asia Bears Its Fangs. President Obama's pivot to Asia bared its fangs last week. China had declared an air defense identification zone in an area that included those rocky islands, which are called the Senkakus by the Japanese and President Obama, and the Diaoyu by the Chinese. The US responded to the declaration of the ADIZ by flying 2 B-52s directly into it, and I said then that that message was incontestable. Colonel Steve Warren at the Pentagon said Washington had conducted operations in the area of the Senkakus. We have continued to follow our normal procedures, which include not filing flight paths, not radioing ahead, and not registering our frequencies, he said. And I think this comment that President Obama has made is as finite and as definite as that, as sending B-52s into that zone. I'll put up a photograph of Barack Obama and Abe Shinzo. Sergei Lavrov, if we are attacked, will certainly respond. There is no reason not to believe that the Americans are running the show, he said. It's quite telling they choose the moment of the Vice President of the US's visit to announce the resumption of this operation, because the launching of this operation happened immediately after the CIA head John Brennan's visit to Kiev, said Lavrov. I'll put up a photograph of Sergei Lavrov and then refer you to this article that I found on Counterpunch. The United States is in the opening phase of a war on Russia. Policymakers in Washington have shifted their attention from the Middle East to Eurasia, where they hope to achieve the most ambitious part of the imperial project to establish forward operating bases along Russia's western flank, to stop further economic integration between Asia and Europe, and to begin the long-sought goal of dismembering the Russian Federation. These are the objectives of the current policy. The US intends to spread its military bases across Central Asia, and according to this report, seize vital resources and pipeline corridors, and encircle China in order to control its future growth. The dust-up in Ukraine indicates that the starting bell has already been rung and the operation is fully underway. As we know from past experience, Washington will pursue its strategy relentlessly while shrugging off public opinion, international law, or the condemnation of adversaries and allies alike. The world's only superpower does not have to listen to anyone. David Paul summed up the situation in an article titled "Forget the Spin. Putin is holding a losing hand" at Huffington Post. Brzezinski's strategic formulation is designed to enhance American power in the region in the long term. And whether Putin finds a way to pull back or chooses to invade is immaterial. Either choice Putin makes will ultimately serve America's interests, even if a Ukrainian civil war and an energy crisis in Europe have to be part of the price along the way. US troops have landed in Poland for exercises, 150 soldiers from the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Separately, the UK, Netherlands and Denmark scrambled fighter jets after Russian military aircraft was spotted approaching their airspace. I, for one, did not think that the US could simultaneously pivot to Russia and to Asia, but evidently that thinking is not what's being thought at the Pentagon, for example. It is rather a bold move, I must say. Blair sees Assad role in peaceful Syria transition. That was an interesting interview, interesting comments Tony Blair made. He's hardly an objective bystander, however. I like this photograph of Imam Hussein hanging on a wall in the childhood home of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in the village of Junaja on the outskirts of Karbala. McKinsey has said that global online traffic across borders grew 18-fold between 2005 and 2012. Currency markets, the euro is at 138.22, the dollar index at 79.80, still below those levels above 80 about which I previously spoke. Japanese yen 102.32, Swiss franc 0.8828, the pound just below 168 at 167.88, Aussie 0.9295, India rupee 61.105, this is a 1 month low, South Korean won 1038.40, and the Brazilian real 222.04. Egyptian pound is just back below 7 at 699.65, South African rand is at 1058.36. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index and just say again that I think we need to get through the 80.16 level and the 80.50 level, but nevertheless we are finding, if you look at the longer term charts, good support just below 79. Euro dollar 138.22 last. Draghi has been talking that down. Facebook has 1.28 billion monthly active users, or almost half the world's internet population, which is pretty extraordinary, isn't it? Stock jumped as much as 6%, adding to a rally that sees Facebook's market value more than double in the past year. First quarter profit and revenue yesterday blew past analysts' estimates. Mobile accounted for 59% of advertising revenue, up from almost nothing at the time of Facebook's initial public offering. iPhone sales were 43.7 million, topping analysts' estimates of 37.7 million. Share price rose after hours to trade at a 2014 high, up as much as 8.5% in extended trading. So good responses by the markets, good results from two big bellwether stocks. Gold 1286.38, so little changed. I reckon it could break down quite sharply. Crude oil 101.66 after that very bad session the day before yesterday. Emerging markets, Vince Raffet and Fred Fugan, professional BASE jumpers, performed 2 base jumps from the top of the 828-meter Burj Khalifa on Monday. Al Arabiya posted a video of it. It's rather dramatic. I'll put up a photograph of the Burj Khalifa as well. Frontier markets, I found this photograph from Agence France Presse. Sri Lankans use a raft to transport motorcycles across a lake at Biagama outside Colombo. I attended the IMF's Regional Economic Outlook for Sub-Saharan Africa launch today at the Saharan lots of interesting points. I've yet to find the report on their website, so therefore I'll look at it later on this afternoon and talk about it tomorrow. But what I found interesting amongst a number of points, Antoinette referenced the biggest risks as being homegrown and security-related risks. And there was a very interesting report about the type of growth Africa is witnessing, comparisons and so forth, and I thought there were some very interesting correlations that were drawn there, and I'll speak about that tomorrow. China urges renewed peace effort in South Sudan after massacre. China has, of course, played an unusually active diplomatic role in South Sudan and is the biggest investor in its oil industry. Bentiu is capital of South Sudan's oil-producing unity state, and in many respects is like the jugular vein. And the fact that the rebels now have control of Bentiu diminishes the money flow into Juba's coffers dramatically. South African oil share up 6.66% in 2014. Dollar versus rand last trading at 10.58.29. I think we head to 10 before we head to 11. Egyptian stock market is the Africa's best this year. It's up 23.56% so far this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange is up 6.88% in 2014. But of course, your returns have been eroded by a steady in free fall. In Luanda's Jumbo supermarket, a half-litre tub of imported vanilla ice cream used to cost $25. Testament to the Angolan capital's rank as one of the world's most expensive cities. With new import tariffs imposed last month, that price has jumped to $31. Really is very, very expensive. The average national salary in 2010 was around $260 per month. In the finance sector, the average was 10 times higher, and in the oil business, over 20 times higher, or around $5,400. Uganda's economy is forecast to expand 6.8% in the next fiscal year. This is according to the Finance Ministry. Focus of fiscal policy remains on sustaining efforts towards infrastructure development, especially roads and energy, and boosting agricultural production and productivity, which are vital to unlock the growth potential of the economy. Uganda faced disruptions in foreign aid flows in 2012 and last year over a corruption scandal, and more cuts to external assistance this year after President Museveni signed a law that strengthens punishments against homosexuality. But the interesting point about those laws is that 98% or some extraordinary number actually approve of it, so it's a very populist measure. Kidnap scourge persists in Mozambique. This has been a lingering problem. The arrest of a businessman with links to the ruling Frelimo party in Mozambique in connection with a series of kidnappings has shocked Maputo on this scourge, so we've got to keep an eye on that. There have been rumours that they've been connected with the ruling party for a while now. Former Senegalese President Abdoulaye Wade's plane was denied permission to land in the country where he was due to visit after a 2-year absence. The plane was stuck in Morocco because authorities in Dakar refused to authorize its landing. Sal's office said in an email statement late yesterday that authorization for a flight from Morocco had been granted, only to be revoked because important flight parameters were changed, including the plane's registration and passenger manifests. Coming to Kenya, car bomb kills 4 in the Kenyan capital. Police officers had earlier stopped the saloon car at traffic lights and were taking the occupants for questioning when the bomb exploded, the ministry said. At least 4 people dead after a saloon exploded at Pangani police station. 2 of them are police officers, the ministry said. Pangani is located next to Eastleigh, an area populated by Somalis and targeted in past bomb and grenade attacks. A second controlled detonation was carried out by bomb disposal officers shortly after the initial blast. My conclusions are asymmetric risks remain really potent. I'll put up a photograph of Westgate taken 212 days ago. And I wrote about this on the 22nd of April, where I said the recent bombings in Burj and last year's attack on Westgate confirm the potency of asymmetric risks. And I referenced the comment by Nigeria's Boko Haram leader Abu Bakr Shekau, who said, "We are in your city," speaking to Goodluck Jonathan. And I said that comment could have been made by the Al-Shabaab. Both Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab represent a risk that David Lipton, who I was referencing, who made some comments about geopolitical risks, did not touch on, that being asymmetric risks. The recent bombings in Abuja and last year's attacks on Westgate confirm the potency of asymmetric risks. African markets have taken these risks in their stride. They might stumble if these asymmetric risks ratchet higher. Put up a photograph of Kenya, please. Kenol Cobil's MD plans to eliminate debt. "We are busy paying our loans to the banks," he says. They've shrunk the volumes. The full year results are on Rich wrap-ups if you want to have a look. And they eked out a profit and even paid a small dividend. The Kenya shilling is back below 87 at 86, 88, 70. The Nairobi all-share closed at a fresh record yesterday. It's up 8.642% this year. By contrast, the NSE 20 is down 0.452%. The Nairobi all-share has rallied 3.269% in April. African equity markets have enjoyed a broad-based rally in April, with Nigeria rallying 4.805%, South Africa just off an all-time high, Egypt is the best performing index in 2014 and up over 23%. Big banks and insurers were strong yesterday. Safaricom well supported at 13, record high of 13.20, headed eventually after a small correction back to 13.50 and a new high. Kenya Airways improved 1.19%. Remember, the commercial director steered full year earnings expectations to a profit. I think that's important and not yet fully digested. Equity Bank rallied 5.14% yesterday, traded its highest volume session of 2014, 10.513 million shares. It's plus 13.008% in 2014 and has rallied 10.85% over the last 3 sessions. Bold moves in the mobile phone space, plus good first quarter results have been the catalyst for this upward move. Kenya Commercial Bank traded 2.438 million shares, now within striking distance and 3% of an all-time closing high of 50. Co-op Bank closed at a record. It's up 21.12% in 2014. Diamond Trust rebounded. Housing Finance eased 4.05%. I think investors were underwhelmed by the first quarter earnings release. Pan-Africa Insurance rallied 3.03%, and it's up 51.11% in 2014. Of course, Sanlam have already said they're looking to add to their position. CIC Insurance, that's up 50.42% this year. And those two have been leaders in this very broad-based insurance rally, which began in the fourth quarter last year. EABL, firm 0.71%, has rallied 9.65% and violently since the 7th of April. Weak longs flushed out a long time ago. Kenol Cobil heavily traded yesterday, second highest volume session in 2014, retreated 3.74%. Everready was firm, up 35.185% this year. Kenya Orchards is the standout, a tiny little company, but it's up 100% through this morning, and it's up another 10% today. Home Africa issued a restatement of full year 2013 earnings after the market closed yesterday, naturally reacting quite poorly this morning. If you want to follow the stock market in real time, just register on the site rich.co.ke, get a password, go to Rich Live. You can inspect the market as a whole or an individual share, supply, demand, which is often the dynamic that drives share prices on the frontier. Once again, thank you kindly for stopping by.